welcome back. I'm Michael Sandler, your host on Inspire Nation, along with
CJ Lou from the Fired Up with CJ show. Hi, everyone.
Woohoo! If you've ever felt exhausted or overwhelmed, then do we have the Recharge Your Batteries show for you. You almost choked on your coffee there, so I can see
I
I hit a
didn't
chord.
choke. I was just laughing and laughing and
Today,
crying at the same time.
today we'll talk about pulling back from the brink, recovering your fuel, and what to do when all systems are down.
Oh,
That plus we'll talk about ignoring warning signs, huge temperature shifts, taking time to pause, a DNC no more, body reset, summer planning, setting goals, hiring coaches, letting go, adding more horses to the stables, that is. iMeditations.com, Truth to Power, Millineal Magic, asking for what you're worth, Ginger Roberts and Fred Estaire, the power of Spotify, why you want to plug in your microphone. And what in the world monkey suits gone bad have to do with anything.
monkey suit's gone bad.
So welcome back to the show.
I don't even know where to start.
Are you ready to shine?
I am. I don't know if you are. I've just sprayed myself with Chakra 7 Lime and Rose, and so I'm just like loving life right now. It smells so good here. If only you could be here in my moment right now. Okay,
I bought some essential oil yesterday. I had asked for something to make it easier to breathe, and instead I got something that was called Breathe Easy for being calm and relaxed. And it did have lime in it, it had pine and a couple other things, but it wasn't quite what I was looking for. But it's interesting that you're spraying the lime right now.
yeah. Well, that's what I was pulled to do, and it kind of depends. I was just talking to someone. Maybe that's not the most balancing thing for you because you're already pretty vata, which means air-like, ether-like. So, like, this is just making you more like lime and rose. It's just like taking like a spaceship. May not need that.
Could be, CJ. Could be.
Could be, but it's movement, so that could help, but still. Okay, there's so many things on your list. Ginger Rogers and Fred Astaire. And then microphone going bad and monkey
Where
suits.
do you
I don't
want to
even know where
start?
to start. Okay, monkey suits.
So I've been trying to, look at what re not re-identifying
Oh,
myself.
rebranding.
And it's sort of rebranding, but just upscaling things, seeing what things will look like, seeing what things will feel like, trying out different suits, so to speak. And so we've had this idea of, I used to love wearing this purple sport jacket, don't have it anymore. So for the show this week, twice I put on a stuffy blue blazer to see what
Oh,
this would feel like.
what'd it feel like?
And like a stuffy blue blazer, I felt trapped. I actually had a gentleman yesterday in the interview go, well, I don't know about your generation because I'm wearing this stuffy blue. And I'm like, not wearing that anymore. And even what I said was more stuffified. So I'm looking, I haven't found any eco or organic blazers yet. I want my bright colors. I was talking last week, I probably talked about my color palette that I like wearing is all the colors of sunrises and sunset. So anything from a purple, a yellow, a red, an orange, or anywhere in between, those bright sunny colors is what I like to wear. The navy blue didn't quite fit in that palette, so I have to go looking. Jessica's on strike with this because she goes, anything you order, you're just going to return. You need to go to a clothing store. I'm like, we're in a valley. There's nothing here for a couple hundred miles. So I'll probably just have to go Amazon and see what I can come
So are you
up
looking
with.
for a jacket or a sweater or
I'm
like,
looking for jackets that'll allow me maybe to go to tees, comfortable t-shirts when I'm on the show, but still look professional, that I'd be comfortable wearing around, which I used to do, so that I can almost wear my sporting clothing with just throwing a jacket on and feel me and look kind of pro. That's the hope and goal.
yeah. I think that there's, Conan O'Brien just rebranded himself. So he used
Oh,
to, do you ever watch that show?
it's been years.
So
When he was the real late show is probably the last time I really caught him.
used to be an hour-long show. Then he switched it down to a half an hour, and it had very routine segments like the comedy bit and like the like up news update, comedy bit, guest, and then another guest and a musician of some sort. And now they've truncated it down to in half an hour, and they've cut the comedy skits, which makes me so sad because those are some of the funniest. But they do kind of a truncated version of that. But in addition to that, Conan O'Brien has changed. He used to wear these like really like swagged out suits from New York, because that was where the show was filmed in NBC studios originally. So he would have these like really unbelievably, beautiful suits. And people don't wear suits anymore. And so he switched it to like what he wears every day, which I guess is a leather jacket, some kind of t-shirt and jeans. But that seemed a little bit too casual. So now he has these like, I don't even know how to describe them. They're like fancy jean jacket kind of things, and like leather coats and like things like that. And then he wears that. So it's kind of casual, but nice casual, if that makes sense.
I guess that's sort of where we're going to thread this needle and see what we can do to make things look more pro while still being me. Nice casual. I like it.
Well,
But I mean, he's just finding himself, it sounds like.
Yeah. And I'm kind of looking for like, so one day he showed up and he had a tie and a button, like a collared shirt and then this, what he settled on is like this jean jacket type style. So it has like, the collar and like an informal, and it's not like all the way down to your end of your like mid thigh, or like, upper thigh region. It goes down to his like, his hip region, like a jean jacket would. And then, so he wears that and a tie, which looks rather strange to me. It's like, you just like, this is like some in-between world that looks strange to me. So yeah, like I kind of like vision you in kind of something sporty, like a race, like a bright yellow race car jacket.
Well, I guess that would be a leather jacket. So, but I am looking at the bright yellow
Or bomber. Do you know like those bomber
blazers.
ones, like the ones that they like?
I used to wear bomber ones because I rode a motorcycle
Yeah.
for a very long time, and so I was always in a leather jacket, which is strange because some people would almost think I look a little bit like a troublemaker, which is like the opposite
Right.
of me. But you've got your leathers on, and people think you're a little bit tough. But yeah, I want to find that look that feels the most me, and is a bit of an upgrade. And so I want to go back to Conan for a second and applaud him for doing this. He has millions and millions of viewers, and yet he has to completely drop the ego and say, I'm going to try this on today, see what fits, see how that feels, try something on until he finds that place. And so that's a very heavy load on his shoulders to be playing with and experimenting. So I want to applaud him for doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, okay, here's my last style tip that I think would
All
work
right,
well
I'll
for
take
you.
it.
Because I am my husband's personal shopper, and now I am just astounded with the number of cool printed collared shirts that they have out there. The designs are out of this world, like beautiful. Like men's clothing really has moved from like the button down blue boring shirt to now with these like geometric prints, flowers, bright colors, like, they're really, really cool. So I can see that, but the only problem is that in your background, I don't know, could be craziness, because, the whole convention with YouTube videos is to have solid colors, solid bright colors versus kind of prints, but that would be kind of fun too.
I'll play. I'll
Yeah,
play this summer.
play.
Jessica has resigned. I'll see if I can get her back on board. I am still her fashion guru. I actually worked in the fashion industry a long time ago. So she loves my taste when it comes to her, but she never seems to be able to satisfy me when she chooses for me.
Yeah.
And so I make her life too difficult there.
Aw.
No. Oh, no.
I want a bright yellow blazer. That's what I think would be cool. Like a
All
sports
right.
blazer. That's what I'm
I'll,
thinking.
I'll see if I can get
Or
one of
print
those
shirt.
ordered this weekend. There are at least 2 or 3 in the shopping cart. Drives me nuts that I haven't found an eco one, but we got to start with where we're at,
Oh,
I guess.
oh, you mean when you mean eco one, do you mean like that's made out of certain types of fiber?
I would love one that is some sort of organic so that there's not, I mean, like non-organic cotton is one of the highest chemical producing products on the planet and does more damage to the water than just about anything than maybe the petroleum industry. So I am always looking for what's eco, what's organic, what's the smallest footprint on the planet, what's recycled, what's upcycled. But you do what you can with what you got.
Did you ever interview the eco Renaissance woman?
Yes, I did. Yes, I did. That was a beautiful interview.
In her book, she actually has a list of URLs of companies that refurbish clothing. You've already gone them.
Yeah, for men, the challenge I run into is in today's temporarily darker world. I'll put it that way. The color palette is of the Northwest. It's all your earthy browns, blues, dark greens, which are cool, but yes.
Look at me today. I know today I was like, oh, Michael is not. I actually just, honestly, I went for, I worked out at 6 this morning and haven't had a chance to change. So I'm actually in my workout clothes. And underneath this, I actually have my workout halter top. Like I have. So I just figured, I'll just put a scarf on it.
I like it.
Michael's not going to like it because I'm wearing gray and he doesn't like when I'm like a little dark shadow.
So you can see the challenge I run into when I go to these companies. They have a beautiful palette that is not representative of Michael's shine bright.
Yeah, it's hard. Yeah, it's I actually love a profusion of color, and it's where you get that is if you look at Bay Area stores. Bay Area has the most beautiful color palette ever, and then Florida, which has
that's what I was thinking.
Some other kind of color palette.
I was looking at one jacket this week, and I'm like, do I have to go Don Johnson on everybody here?
I think like the good compromise may be San Francisco. That's elegant and beautiful at the same time. But the Don Johnson is fun too, which is very Florida. Like those kind of colors are like, really? Oh, they still make stuff like this? But
I might be able to pull it off.
Yeah, you could definitely pull it off. It's the colors in the South. So I'll go and I'm like, wow, I've never seen such a large array of sundresses in my life. Like it's like the world of Southern sundresses. It's kind of what you do when you're in the South, and with the beautiful prints and the roses and everything. So it's kind of a Southern thing. So I think the guys probably have their equivalent. New Orleans would be another place that actually would be really high fashion, beautiful color palettes. That would be probably the compromise between Florida, kind of you get into the old person feeling. No offense, Florida, but New Orleans would be kind of the hip, jazzy. Yeah,
I will Google it because yesterday I cranked out, whatever. As we're going through and we're getting light for the spring, so we're going through our closets. We're donating a lot of stuff, and I pulled out an old turquoise shirt that I was wearing in the Southeast, and I put it on, and forgive me, everybody, I was like, Grandpapa. It's not working for me.
It's very interesting. All this, because it's basically personas. And what is the persona? I one time talked to, I can't remember the name of the guest, but she's a very famous spiritual person, but I can't remember her name. Anyways, but what she did tell me, she viewed everything like an act. It's all an act. You just put on the persona of. So she'd be like, oh, well, Gene Houston, well, this is the essence of what you need to be focusing on. The essence. So she'd have this persona. She'd have these kind of personas that she would switch on and off. And I found it a little bit disturbing because I thought, well, I'm all about authenticity, but now you're actually telling me, in her world, it's like putting on the persona. It's like fun, like wearing a funny hat on Easter and like trying on the different hats, and so much fun that can do that, and to be flexible enough to not be so taking yourself so seriously that you have to have a fixed persona. But anyways, you'll be able to play in the next couple of weeks. I look forward to seeing your outfits each time.
And I will free myself. I couldn't do the monkey suit with you. I just couldn't do it.
I would be like, what is going on, Michael? Okay, I want you to wear a non-monkey suit outfit. Try different things. I'm looking forward to seeing you. Okay, Ginger Roberts and Fred Estaire, or Ginger
I guess it
Rogers?
Should be Ginger Rogers and Fred Estaire. Yes. So we've been continuously streaming, freeing the mices that come in, and we've had this 2 mices this week who are like bonded at the hip. They're not doing that, but they're just one is continuously snuggling and protecting the other. And
Oh,
for many days, I thought, well, maybe they're in gestation. I should leave them alone, keep them together, nice and quiet. And we're going to free them after the show this afternoon. But they are the most loving little mousy couple I have ever seen.
no.
Inseparable. Wherever they go in this little aquarium, they're together. Uh, it's the
Oh,
sweetest little
that is
thing.
so sweet. Aw.
So,
Oh, well, I had this feeling that you were going to say, and then there were 10.
well, that's why I was keeping them together and not separating them because I thought there were many coming and maybe they'd like a nice, safe place
Mhm,
to give birth. Now we wouldn't do what we talked about last week of,
mhm.
separating mom and children accidentally. But
Yeah.
no, no babies have showed up yet. Now maybe they will be later on, but we're gonna get them back into the wild today, and we keep that continuous circle of setting all the mousies free we possibly can.
Okay, Michael, I was laughing when you were reading your intro because
Yes.
this morning, um, okay, so tell me what you think this means. So my son went off to a trip to Alaska. This is their kind of rite of passage, and we live in the Pacific Northwest. So they go up north and they take a ferry that takes 4 days to get from British Columbia all the way to Alaska. Then they actually camp on these lakes that and it's like below. There's snow on the ground, and so they're camping on top of a frozen lake. It's that cold there. And and I think I told you that when my son got into colleges, I just kind of it finally hit me like, oh my God, he's going. I mean, I kind of knew that he was going anyways, but somehow the acceptance letter made it clear that he was going. So I went into shock. And I this week I've just there's this I didn't realize this, but I'm really really tired. And then I had this dream. And the dream was that my husband and I were living with this other couple that when we were getting married, we were constantly drafting behind them. Like they got engaged and we got engaged. They got married, then we got married. We used to cake person, flower person, whatever. We were just drafting behind them, right? So this is how they fall. My friend Jackie Stamps and Ted. So in this house, I was in my Green Lake house, which is where we started when the four of us, like when we had Caden, our youngest one, and we started
Yeah.
a family. So I'm there with Jackie. And Jackie says to me in the dream, "Oh, there's water. We think there's water in the. We found some evidence of water, but we just kind of it's fine. Ted's taking care of the water thing." And I was like, "Oh, okay." And then I see water dripping down from the top of the house, and I was like, "Wow, that's kind of strange." And I thought, "There's something wrong here." And then I go up and I open the door, and there's in our basement in this Green Lake house is a torrential downpouring of water. It comes, it's like it's just a flood of. I open the basement door, and a flood of water. It's like a tsunami knocks me over, and I have to open the door so it will go out of the house so I don't drown. And I thought, oh, I guess it's not that hard to figure out what this means. I'm
I think
just.
that's the theme of today's show, CJ. How about you?
I thought, okay, that is, and it's funny because I thought, oh, I wonder what that means. I'm like, I think I kind of know what that means, but it is. It's like I have been waking up and I'm exhausted. I've been waking up. I woke up today at 4. The day before, I woke up at 5, and then there's just this underlying. I can't breathe. I'm stressed out, and there really isn't anything going on. And, I mean, I had one show
On
after
the
another, but it was just like,
surface.
what?
On the surface,
I
there's
know.
not much going on.
I
But if you
know.
want to talk about a tsunami of emotion, because that's what we're
Yeah.
talking about, water being emotion in your dreams typically, is the overwhelm of now you're really. I know how much you were hopping up and down going crazy a year or two ago with son number one, now son number two going away. And it's off to the funny farm to La La Land. You go for a little bit.
I thought I was like, hey, it's so weird. I don't feel as off with my first on my first son. I was just like could probably be weepy, like at any point in time. And I'm actually fine, but I think it's just stuff down super deep.
It's
So,
there.
so you're feeling exhausted, overwhelmed. So that's why I was laughing when I read yours because I thought, oh, I can
We parallel.
completely relate.
Well,
So what happened to you?
we had miscarriage one in the fall, then a very brief recovery, miscarriage, or then so pregnancy number one, miscarriage number one, brief recovery into pregnancy number two, miscarriage, an extended miscarriage number two because we found out early, but it's been in her belly for quite a while, and
Mm.
it was just wearing us down and wearing us down until the end of last week. I was getting all these warning signs. You're
Mm.
out of chi,
Oh.
and I just kept going. In fact, fit in to help a friend out, fit in a coaching session last Friday night where I'm going. I am so in the red zone, and I'm like, Archangel Michael, Archangel Raphael, Archangel Gabriel, all angels, guides, light workers, please give me energy to get through this. Got up Saturday morning. I'd been skiing in shorts on for several weeks. It's been so warm, but there's so much snow. Saturday morning was in the 20s. Did my usual ski thing. My body could not handle the cold because it'd been in such warm weather,
Mm.
and I went down hard. And if I took a deep breath right here, I'm
Oh no. So you
not sure
got
we even
really
want to include
sick.
that. I
Wow.
never get sick. I never get sick. And I did myself in by not listening to the warning signs. And Monday was such a blessed day for us that allowed us to both go down, which is we went in for what's called a DNC. I'll
Oh.
call that a hoovering for Jessica to be able to remove what didn't turn into baby. And we found out when we were in there that it was the whole reason we did it was really to be able to do genetic testing.
Mm-hmm.
And we found out that it had taken so long to get to this point, there was an extremely slim chance, like very close to none, that they would be able to learn anything from this.
Oh.
And we both decided, let's not do the DNC. And
Oh.
we left there actually incredibly relieved. And both of our immune systems, sort of like after final exams, crashed through the floor.
Mm.
Now, fast forward to today, which is interesting because today is like 11 weeks, one day. And it was 11 weeks, one day for pregnancy number one
Mm.
that she had her full miscarriage. 11 weeks today, she's had her full systems reboot.
Oh wow.
So, which meant neither one of us got much sleep last night, CJ.
What
It
happens when
was
you have a system reboot? Is the baby just come out and like your placenta and things? I get that. Oh my God.
it's really small. It's like an extremely severe period.
Period. Oh, poor
And so
thing.
she was a mess last night. Now she's just exhausted. She's like, "Why am I so exhausted?" And then she's like, "Oh wait, I didn't fall asleep till after 4 this morning." I'm like, I know.
I woke up at 4. Maybe that's why I heard your distress signals, and because I was
So
like, I'm up. Okay, I can't go to sleep,
that's
and I kept on saying, "What's happening? Is it this? Is it this? Is this?" I'm like, I don't really know what's happening.
but we're
Um,
we're in much greater peace
mm.
now. And
Oh, that's
but
just so hard.
this 5 weeks, I think it's been 5 weeks since we knew, has been really, you're talking about the emotional tsunami of grinding you down. And so finally, I fell apart, which, from a spiritual point of view, I consider a detox. It's all just doing what it needs to do. But
Is your falling apart meaning you got sick, or did you
yeah,
emotionally fall? Yeah.
no,
Okay.
yeah, not emotionally fall apart. Have had some interesting dreams the last few days. Did have a good nightmare last night. Um, but no, not so much emotionally falling apart. Just I felt exhausted. She felt overwhelmed. Um, and just this desire of, can we step back? Can we hit pause? Now it's funny, each time we've been hitting pause, these magical ideas just keep coming to us, which is really cool because didn't have time to even, the busyness of the overwhelm is the best way to describe it. There was no bandwidth until now, and
Hmm.
the bandwidth is coming back.
Yeah. Yeah. So, you you basically were taken down by the universe by getting sick, and then
Yeah.
Jessica not being able to sleep. So what are you doing to recalibrate then this weekend, and generally
So
speaking?
what we were planning on doing, I'm wondering if we will still do or not. I don't know.
Mm.
Which is I got the snow tires off of Tessie this morning, and I
Mm.
got some summer tires. This is really other than the miles from the dealer to the body shop to get the color work done. I haven't driven this without snow tires.
Mm.
So silent. And I spent a little bit extra on the tires and got it's so vain. I got tires that have foam in the inside to make them quieter. I'm like, I
Mm.
just want peace. I want peace. It might be a fractionally slower, but I want peace. And so we may take a drive this weekend to Moab, Utah. It's about 3 hours away,
Oh
and go
wow.
hike Canyonlands, or maybe just camp out at a coffee shop because we may not be able to hike very much. That's what the plan has been. I know that I'm deliberately not filling gaps. We had a gap open up in our schedule earlier today. Today's Friday. Fridays are historically a two-interview day. A gap opened up, and I'm like, don't fill it. And my assistant's like, sorry, already been trying to fill it. I'm like, let's see what the universe does. And the universe didn't bring a guest. And she's like, do you want me to? And I'm like, keep it empty.
Right.
I'm like, I want these pockets of empty space right now. In those times, I want to take time to recover, but I also want to flip the switch back on for dreaming
Mm.
because often it's not just the couch time that recovers us, it's having hope for the future.
Mm.
And so I've been thinking, I've been looking at getting a running coach. I interviewed one a
Wait,
couple of days
can I
ago.
make wait one quick
Please,
comment?
please, please.
So, I don't know why. Every now and then I read email, I'm like, why am I even reading this email? It's clearly like a promotional email or a junk. I don't even know why. But I read this one email from this guest, Madeline Gurrick, who is not junk. I mean, she has this idea based on astrology that when you to start businesses on a business birth is no different than a human birth. So starting your creative process during a time that's astrologically sound is just like
Like the new moon last night.
yes, yes. And so that was the thing. So in it, she said this Friday, it was something like Venus conjuncts something or other to, astrologically. So this Friday, today, is one of those times to be really clear about what it is that you want for the rest of the year. To do this is like an excellent time for manifesting the thing that you want. So and it sounds like you were doing your summer planning and setting goals. So what did you decide? What are you going to do?
Well, it's up in the air. So from a business point of view, we're doing several things interesting. I'll jump into that for in a minute. From a running goal, I don't want to be racing like I did last year or anything close, but I want maybe one big goal that's a carrot to help me get in great shape for my skiing for next year, for everything for next year, when I do plan on having more time and investing more in it, more
Right.
chi. Right now, I want to launch this rocket ship. Inspire Nation is the rocket ship that I just keep on getting more energized to do more with. So, interviewed a running coach a couple of days ago, may or may not hire her, haven't decided yet. And because I'm looking at a coach that specifically gets uphill trail running. I just want to go
Mm.
straight uphill as fast as I can, and then maybe do some downhill running pretty good
No,
as well.
I find it really interesting because you are a professional. Like you've run for a lot, you know a lot, you know about barefoot running. What value does a coach offer for you? Just because you know so much, it's hard for me to imagine that there are people who know more than you.
So, A, there are certainly people who know more than me. B, it's easy to get yourself in trouble. It is easy to be stuck in your own paradigm, to overestimate what you're capable of in the short term, underestimate in the long term,
Mm.
and to not have that feedback that you need to keep yourself on the sane side of things. Well, I could do just a little bit more. I'll be fine, for instance. But if you have somebody who's watching you carefully, that can help. Additionally, I have lots of creative joints and stuff like that at this point that work awesomely well, but it could take help being out of my paradigm to say, how can I build more lateral stability? What do I do to work on the downhills more without over fatiguing the knees, things that I don't have the most
Ah, so it's
expertise,
like super technical things, like really down to details. Like you have diagnosed the problem in some cases,
but I
but
need
need
somebody
additional
outside
strategies.
of me. And then the uphill running game is one that I've done for a long time, but not competitively. I don't pretend to have all the answers there.
Mm,
You have me train for a regular marathon, I'll probably do really good. But ask me to train for a trail marathon or something with 10,000 feet of elevation gain, I don't know what I don't know.
mm,
Maybe I do know most of things. I'll never say I know it all. I never would. Um, but maybe there are things I haven't thought of or
mm-hmm.
ways to approach it I haven't thought of. So just as I recommend everybody else get a coach, I recommend a coach get a coach.
Yeah, no, I'm just curious just for running because I guess I would use a parallel because I actually just hired my so as I was trying to get clear and let go of my attachment to I realized that I had an attachment to my teacher, the energy that he was providing, and and it was an unhealthy attachment filled with a bunch of fear of like, what if I do this? Then and he goes, and then I'll lose this whole spiritual community. What if, and I had all these weird attachments. And yeah, I do spiritual radio show. I'm a coach. I would probably be able to help someone who was having problems with a boss or something, but not. I've never worked with a guru before. I don't understand these practices. I'm not sure exactly what was happening. And my dear friend Margani's like has was on the Osho Ranch. She
Yeah.
saw all sorts of things happening with gurus and people, and and she offered things that I just wouldn't know. And so I definitely understand what you're talking about. I'm just kind of curious because you know so
I'm
much
so
about
proud
running.
of you.
Yeah,
We're both on the same path of getting outside assistance, getting out of our paradigm to
yeah,
understand things.
yeah, and letting go. In my case, it was about letting go of fears, like and deciding how to make peace with the situation. My teacher did something that, in the scheme of things of gurus and students, did something, it wasn't like mass murder, it wasn't rape, or, it was just like speeding violation. It wasn't a traffic ticket,
Yeah.
it wasn't shoplifting, speeding violation. You know, could have hurt me, didn't hurt me because I've done so much work on myself, but could have hurt me. So it's
Yeah.
like, and I wanted to write, there was a part of me, my ego really wanted to give him a ticket and cite actually the rules of the land that he's actually prescribed and said, here are the rules that you've described for me, yet somehow you're not following. So I'm going to cite you on these two violations. And I just really want to point that out. And every part of my personality wanted to like write out the ticket, rip the pad, you know, and say, I'm going to give you past this time, or like, here it is, you owe me $150, whatever it is, not that there isn't any money, but like
Yeah. Yeah.
and it's interesting because I thought, do I really, what part of me needs to say something and have something done? And it was my ego that like wanted to settle the score. And it's been interesting because this week the whole thing with Joe Biden kissing the back of this woman's head came up, and it's very interesting. I think that we're in a really interesting time in society when we're trying to figure out what is our truth and when do we speak up in the interest of that truth, and when do we love someone and say, yeah, that's just, I accept that. That's who they are. That's the situation. It may not change. And me kind of writing you traffic violation, it really doesn't do anything aside from satisfying my ego. So,
It's an interesting question we've had this week as we had the wrap put on our car, which is
yeah.
absolutely phenomenal. And then we had the wrap, the clear coat put on top of the wrap, which has been falling off.
Yeah. Oh,
And
wow. That's interesting.
and so I wrote out a letter this week. I wrote it out once to the expert who put it on, and then I stepped back and then tried to add more heart to it and take out anything that doesn't have a point. And then Jessica went in and did the same thing, and I get to read it again before we send it. We are asking for specific things to make this kind of right. but I wanted to make sure that I am coming from the kindest, loving, most gentle place that I can be, rather than to assuage an ego that feels like I've ruffled, my feathers have been ruffled. I need to pass the ruffling on to you.
Yes. It's really hard. So, like, how do you know? Like, in that case, in the car, I view like there was a financial transaction in which you
Bingo.
received a good that had to meet certain quality standards. And so there's a recognized path in our economic system or whatever in transactions where if you buy something, it doesn't meet the quality standards, you go back and some type of compensation or, something will happen. So I think that that's great. But even in that, like, who are you and what are you being during that whole thing? Are you just trying to get it to
Absolutely.
be perfect? And it's like, it's not perfect, or, which
In
I'm,
our case, they're
yeah.
peeling off.
Yeah, that's, that's
They're
beyond
trying to
perfect.
jump off of the car
Yeah,
in
that's,
multiple places, and you're going, what happened?
it's hard, right? Because how do you, and then I had, so I talked to someone yesterday. I was talking to you probably have interviewed her, the gal, Kamala, who does the Rumi stories.
Yes, so beautiful.
Yeah,
Kamala.
Kamala. No, Kamala. Anyways, she said to me, I don't know.
It's we'll just call her the person we both want to
Yeah, I
give
don't
the
remember.
greatest hug to in the world.
Yes, she was very wonderful. And she said, "Well, do you think that this going to fester in your heart? If you don't write the letter to this gentleman, if I don't talk to my teacher, will it fester in your heart?" And I've been waking up thinking, will this fester in my heart? And I was like, no, I don't think it will. So the only reason that, like, so why say something? But if it festers in your heart and it's just something that you'll constantly feel diminished, feel bad, or feel bad about the relationship, then I think this is what I'm concluding. Then you got to say something. But if you feel like, you know, you're good, you accept the person as they are, you accept the situation as it is, and that you can really be loving the person just as much as you loved them before, then I think why say something? But if you think that that person needs to be schooled in some way, like does Joe Biden need to be schooled? I don't know.
I won't even go in that direction. With the rap gentleman, I don't view it as a school, but I do view it as a step into my power. Not running over anybody else,
Yeah.
but if the job wasn't done even close to well, and you don't say something, I feel like you're giving away a little bit of your power. Not to him, but it's almost like losing a soul fragment. You're not speaking your truth. Maybe that's what Kamla means,
Yeah.
is that you're not speaking your truth and that will fester. So I want to find the way that I can, in the most kind, gentle, and compassionate fashion, speak my truth and ask for what I desire to balance things out, but while putting myself in his shoes and trying to think of him as much as possible, because we're all one. And so, how can I bring us all up rather than down from the situation? And that's why I held off doing it for a while, because I kept saying, does it feel light? Does it feel heavy? And it kept feeling heavy. And I'm like, I don't want to do something heavy. That's not the right energy I want to play with.
Hmm. I think it's funny. So for me, I literally did work until I could say there are no more egoic traces associated with this, and then
Yeah.
then do I still want to do it or not? And what part of me is speaking if it's not my ego? Is it my soul? Is it my heart? Is it my spirit? And if they're like, no mas, like don't worry about it, just don't do anything, then maybe. And it's one of the first times that I am not saying anything. Normally I'm like, the truth must be heard. I need to have an emotionally honest relationship. Um, but in this case, it's like, no, that's not the way, from what I can tell, is the way that this my teacher conducts relationships. So I can be okay, but that this isn't his way. But it's hard, right? I mean, it's very hard. So is that what you were when you were talking about letting go? Is that what you were um, referring to?
There's just been a tremendous letting go of so much over the
Oh, because of
last
the
few
baby
weeks.
too. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Duh,
Letting
yeah.
go there, letting go of clothing, letting go of ideas. Just how much can we let go into everything through this time period to kind of recharge your batteries? Even I joke about yesterday, I did a show. I was recovering from my fever. I thought I could do it great. It was a beautiful interview. I had set up everything as best as I could. It was multiple guests at the same time, so a little bit different setup, only to find out afterwards my best mic, the one you hear me on, well, actually, the one I'm recording into, you hear me on the not as good mic. My best mic had come unplugged.
Oh
And
no.
because I wasn't feeling on my A game and had multiple things to do, I didn't catch that.
Oh,
It'll still sound good for people. Not great, not our usual great, but good. But even that, I'm afterwards, and there's like, basically steam coming off of me. I'm like a puddle doing my first interview after being down all week. And I'm like, just got to let that go.
yeah,
Just let it all go.
yeah, yeah. I had that. I've had that actually for two interviews, one with you, and then I thought it was fixed because I actually tested it and it was fixed. And then the next
Yeah.
time, because of Skype coordinating with both the recording software that we use, I had it happen again. And then luckily, I think, that it's working now. Who knows until we hang up the phone? But
Stay
yesterday
tuned
it
and find
worked.
out.
Yesterday at work, I assume it still works. But yeah, you never really know.
Here's another big letting go,
Yeah.
which is, if you type in self-help on iTunes, we come up number two. Whoo!
Yay. Wow. Nice.
And we've just been growing and growing and growing. And I know a long time ago somebody had said, "Are you on Spotify?" And I'm like, "Well, we've been on Spotify since the beginning. They had trouble finding us on Spotify. They found us on iTunes, this, that, or the other. Last summer, are you on Spotify?" And I did some quick checking, and it looked like there was a glitch with Spotify.
Oh no.
And so I re-uploaded everything to Spotify, got it going, looked like we were good. And then this fall, when we were testing Teslas, and we put it in on the TV screen on the Tesla to pull up the show with Spotify, it didn't come up.
Mm.
And so I checked in, and it looked again like we weren't on
Oh
Spotify.
wow.
And so I got everything taken care of. And then Jessica told me a few weeks ago, it looks like Spotify hasn't reconciled yet.
Oh.
And so I'm doing some more checks and stuff. And it's only in the history of our show, the second biggest podcast distributor in the country, the biggest worldwide now, we found out, until this week, has not had our show.
Wow.
And so 2 days ago, we started with a massive 6 downloads on Spotify after like silence for 3.5 years, 6 downloads. It went to 29 downloads yesterday. It's like as if we're a baby show again.
Yeah.
Even that, I could go, oh my, we'd have twice the audience. We'd be there. We'd be blah, blah, blah. Let it go.
Right.
Let it all
Yeah.
go.
It's
Craziness.
hard, right? It's like, well, why? Why didn't it? How come?
Yeah, exactly. And you go, hey,
Don't know. Can't figure out. Not sure why. Who
dotted my
knows?
I's, crossed my T's. Had I not been in the busyness, I probably would have caught it sooner. These gaps are helping. One of the crazy things we're doing is we've been saying, what does our subscription service look like moving forward? That's going to be easiest for people to get help, to consume content that they want, and help us stay commercial free and grow this thing. And we've been trying to come up with a vault, and it seemed too complicated. This other thing seemed too complicated. And I'm like, well, every other guest at a minimum gives us a meditation.
Right.
I'm doing guiding meditations all the time. My classes, my YouTube lives, everything. I'm always doing meditations. And I'm like, what if we make a meditation warehouse for people, a place where everybody can get all the meditations that they want? And we could start with the 500 plus meditations we have.
Oh, wow.
Because we had paused and stepped back, we're at this point of mess and paused, but we're paused nonetheless. we said, well, Inspire Nation Meditations. All right, that's a good starting point.
Right.
And we can have, a monthly subscription service to get, 2 or 3 free meditations a month or new meditations a month for a minimum fee. Getting excited about this. Inspire Nation Meditations. Jessica's like, well, maybe we can call it INS meditations because she did like Inspire meditations. That's taken. She checks out INS meditations. She's looking for all these things. And then she Googled imeditations.com.
Not taken?
It is now, CJ.
I can't believe it hasn't been taken.
We are going to rock the meditation world. And we already have over 500 meditations.
Wow, that's
This
great.
came out of pausing and letting things go.
Yeah, because when you let the whole, I have you ever had Brooks Palmer on your show? He's this guy who wrote Clutter, this book about clutter,
No.
decluttering. Oh, he's got a fantastic sense of humor. But it's basically the whole feng shui idea of like the importance of letting go, and when you clear out all that stuff in your head, in your house, off your desk, that it provides just letting go of those things allows space for new things to arise. And so I love how that's happening, and I'm hoping that as I let the torrential downpour of tears, that something wonderful
Well, that
comes
is
into
letting
place.
go. That's the emotions
Yeah,
coming out. Guys, if you're listening, we, myself especially, need to do more of that to get the emotions out.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't know if I haven't really been crying, but like inside, I'm crying, even though, and it's making me exhausted, even and not sleeping, even though. Consciously, I'm like, I don't know what's going on. I mean, I know at the level, like, of course I'm going to be sad, but it hasn't hit me yet. So we'll see how that goes.
What's millennial magic? So switching from the tears flowing to magic.
Okay. So, all right, I'll tell you kind of a story that's, uh, I guess about, another thing. It was like asking for what you're worth. I tend to have a soft spot for nonprofits. Whenever they ask me for something, like, my rates are usually $250 an hour, and then I go down to like 100. Like it's a dramatic drop, and so this nonprofit said, "Hey, we'd really like you to coach people," and I was like, "You know what? I'm so sick of underselling myself. I don't
Yeah.
want to do that." And in fact, I just interviewed. It's a really interesting interview. This woman. It's a book called "Women Don't Ask," and her name is Sarah Lachev. I don't know. I can't pronounce her name correctly, but it's Sarah. Women Don't Ask. Anyhow, what she found is that women generally don't, in salary negotiations, don't ask what they're worth because
Really good.
one, they underestimate how much they're worth. They don't do enough research to know how much you're actually worth. And then they're afraid to ask because of the relationship impact it may have. And women are so relationship oriented that they're fearful that it will impact the relationship, so they don't ask at their own harm. And so in the interest, so I said, okay. I said, well, they asked, this nonprofit asked, I'm like, okay, here's my rate. And I just, waited, and they're like, okay, yeah, that works. I'm like, like, I didn't even think to ask because it was a nonprofit. So anyways, I thought, okay, well, good. Now I'm actually being paid fairly, so I don't feel bad about like working with nonprofits. What happens is when I undercharge, and there's a part of me that's
Resentment.
like just feeling less than, and I don't know if I still do great work, I think, but there's this kind of like a resentment that kind of tinges everything. And I thought, I just don't want that to be there. So
When I
one,
coach, go ahead.
yeah, so that was the start of my millennial coaching thing. What were you going to say? Sorry.
Well, when I coach, I'm always challenging people to ask for more in a contract negotiation because I believe that comes to a win-win. Because if instead you undervalue yourself and you get in at too low of a price, sooner or later you're going to become resentful. Your work's not going to go as well. You're not going to do as well. What they hired you for isn't going to be done as well, and they actually lose by underpaying you.
Right.
So you have to ask for what you're worth. You have to shoot for the stars. Be okay with the moon. But if you don't ask, you're setting yourself both up in the long run for lack of
Okay, can I give you
success.
two really interesting stats that I learned from interviewing this guest? So
Sure.
let's say, and this is super hypothetical, but let's say there are two people who are working part time in a job, and each of them was getting $25,000 a year. And so for the woman, she'd be like, okay, I'll take $25,000. The guy, on average, guys end up negotiating all the time. This is the gender difference. And this is just like, you know, based on the empirical data, not all the time, but the vast
Yeah.
majority of men negotiate. So the guy would negotiate from 25,000 to 30,000. So they started off with just this one difference in pay salary. Now, if you take the time value of money, so that's like year one, you know, they're starting off from their part-time job. All of a sudden, take that into now these 20-year-old people who are making this part-time job are now retiring.
Hmm.
There's almost, I think, like a $500,000 difference from that one person, because if you take the money that the gentleman made from that $5,000 extra and then you keep on compounding, because let's say that each of them just keeps on increasing that 25,000 to 3% every year, and then there's also for the extra $5,000 that the gentleman made, he would make additional 3% off of that. By the time you take both of those things into account, it was something like $500,000. I mean, a huge amount that you think, oh, like I didn't realize how much that made a difference. They even looked at women and men. Let's say that we both were going to make 100,000, and I'm just rounding. It's just for simple for the
Yeah.
math. So let's say that uh, the range for a job was the starting salary was 100. Women would be, if they did negotiate, would ask for like maybe 110%. So they'd say, I would like you to offer me $110,000. Guys generally offer 100 at go 30%. So they would say, for that same job offer, the same skills, they would say, I would like to make $130,000. Now, what happens is in negotiation, there's a reciprocity. And so when you say, you know, hey, I was thinking of making $130,000, and they come back with $115,000, you
Hmm.
split the difference. Okay, so that's generally what happens. So the man walks away with $115,000 at the salary, where the woman makes $105,000, thus causing, just by not asking, like, even not only do women no ask, but even when they ask for less, thus causing the problem that I mentioned before, this compounding of money just for not asking. Anyways, I just thought that was fascinating.
And
Um,
what's the name of this guest again? I may have to have
Her
her on the
name is
show.
Women
With
Don't Ask, and her name is Sarah oh, I'll send you the name. It's
I can
beautiful.
find it from there.
Go look from the
So,
book.
and
Um,
that's actually been a theme with us this year, and that actually gets back into the car app as well. Of you have to ask, you have to ask for what you're worth. You have to. And I don't know if I'll keep it in. I keep thinking of Jessica's mom, who is, I think she actually just celebrated her retirement party last Friday, and got a retirement package,
right.
and I think she may have felt that didn't ask for more because she wasn't staying on longer. And I'm going, if she had read this book, where would she be
Right.
in this?
Ask, and they can always say no, or they can meet you halfway, or, you know, there's no harm in asking. I think it just depends on the other thing that she said was it's not just asking, but it's the way that you ask, because um, we still, as human beings, are have stereotypes and gender expectations. And so if I came to you and said, Michael, I deserve to make 130 because I looked at the research and here's the different things and blah, 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 you'd be like, hell on wheels scares the crap out of me. Okay, and you can see all this stuff in my radio show because we talk a lot about this. But for women, they're people expect women to be friendly, communal. So it's like, Michael, you know, I looked at this research, and 130, when I look at the market rates, is really appropriate for someone with my skill level. And so I really think it's important that we both start off the relationship well. Don't you? You know, so it's like I'm being communal, you know, it's like I'm smiling at you. This is what men expect women to do. And when women don't do that, men are likely to say no. It's like, oh my gosh. Oh my God. What do so it's this kind of paradox, right? Because we're trying to, as women, empower ourselves and be strong, but we have to case it in this persona that we were talking about earlier, persona, and how the challenge becomes how do you acknowledge that there's expectations on the other side. You'll be received better if you have a certain persona, but at the same time speak your truth. And this loops back to this group of 4 women that I've been coaching who are all millennials. And this is kind of like, this is the time of our, these women and this millennial generation are going to be the pivot point between this kind of like world in which we live in, which is like largely white men, you know, older men who have set the dialogue and set the expectations, set the culture of what is good and what is normal, is being shifted around. These millennials are unbelievable. I've had some of the most beautiful, heart-touching conversations that I've ever had in any coaching client when I've talked to these millennial folks. I'm talking to one person who's Native American. I'm talking to another person who's Hispanic. And I'm talking to another one who is Filipino. And they share like, okay, it's fine, but do you realize like when I was in California, I was one of those people in the fields that was being sprayed with pesticides. Like you can talk about this stuff, but like that is what I'm talking about, racial, you know, racial like economic justice, and that it does make a difference. And when Hispanic people can't speak up for their rights, they don't even have a place at the table, then how can we live in this world in which there's supposed to be, you know, freedom and justice for all men are created equal, when they're really not? There's just this huge hypocrisy. And same with the Native American. I mean, just the stories that I've been learning. So even though I was complaining about the price that I was getting paid, man, it's been invaluable. I feel like I've learned about a generation. I feel like, you know, it's not like, you know, are these 4 people representative of their ethnicity? I don't know. But even if it's just these 4 people I'm talking to, just my heart has opened and my heart and eyes have been open to things that I just never saw. And it's purely out of ignorance. It's not out of malice. I just am ignorant. And just hearing their stories, just, oh, it's beautiful. Anyway, so that's my millennial magic.
I dated a Navajo girl for 6.5 years, my first long-term serious relationship.
Yeah.
Spent a whole bunch of time down on the Navajo reservation, and I had no idea. This is the best way. Complete eye-opener, complete game changer, shifter. And it really does. I'm glad you mentioned it, because if we can keep that in perspective, then a lot of even what we're talking about here is like first world plus problems.
Mm-hmm.
Like, do we really have anything to complain about?
Right. Yeah. So, anyways, that's my millennial magic. What else are we missing off of this
Just
list?
one last thing, and
Yeah.
I feel so vain for actually sharing it based on what we're talking about, which is the additional horses in the garage. This just seems so vain, but I've been waiting for it for weeks. So what the heck? My Tesla gets upgrades via software, like you get upgrades on your phone. And so the upgrade earlier today was so that she can see stop signs and traffic lights, so that she can do more driving on her own. But she also gets via software more horsepower and longer battery.
What? What?
I know
what?
they do that via software these days.
Wow.
So
wait, how's that possible?
Because the difference between my car and the racy version, which we didn't get with, baby coming on board, is actually a software change that changes the way that the battery mapping or how much electricity juice can go out to the motors.
Well, why don't they have that on every piece of software just for environmental reasons?
As far as why don't they have
Why don't they just
allow?
offer the most gas efficient thing on every single
Oh, no,
vehicle?
it's not efficiency. It's horsepower. How
Oh, I see.
fast?
Okay.
So it's able to go faster now, but it's also the batteries can hold more charge because of the way they map the electricity
Oh,
than before. So you can go farther. It's like all of a sudden, I'm going to drive my car later today or tomorrow, and she's going to go farther on a tank of gas.
wow, that's brilliant. So you're going to have better gas mileage, and it's just a software update.
It's all just software. It's
That
all
just
just software.
blows my mind.
So that's but again, putting in perspective with what we're just talking about, I feel guilty even talking about it. But it is kind of cool that she gets this upgrade. She gets smarter. She gets racier. Not that I necessarily needed her to, but I'll always take it. And I've got the quiet tires now. But I will
Nice.
say this. I will say this. I went to a minority-owned business. I went to a Hispanic-owned garage, and I'm so happy about doing that. We can change this world by where we place our dollars.
Yeah, absolutely. There was actually a great book a while ago. I interviewed a gentleman, and he actually had this whole book on like looking at companies and specific products and mapping them against a set of criteria for companies that do social good and like which to buy and whatnot. It was literally a guide. Very interesting. I'm sure he's done updates to this book. If you are interested in talking to him, I would highly recommend it.
I would love to find out more because I am always, as you can see, even choosing a blazer, I'm looking at
Right.
what can my dollars do to influence markets, to influence decisions, to help the planet and help everybody. I'm always asking that
Yeah.
question. So I think that'd be brilliant.
Yeah. Social responsibility, it's like social responsibility and investments or something like that. Anyways, remind me. Send me an email and I'll go and
I
send you the
will
name.
do that. Any last words of wisdom you want to share? We have covered a ton of ground.
We've covered like the whole world. I I just want to reiterate the idea of when you're under the most duress, how important it is to make space. I mean, that's what I've been doing. And in some ways you have to make space to realize how you need space. And made space and knew I needed space, and still, even when I did, I couldn't even though I'm like I need to rest, I need to take care of myself. And this morning, I just couldn't go to sleep. So I guess the only thing I would say, and even when you can't do that, just accept things as is makes things so much better. Because I could have been like, I didn't get any sleep last night, but then I was like, I got 4 hours. That's what happened.
Woo-hoo.
That's what life wanted from me. What can you do? And just accepting it makes everything so much better. So accepting what is, the power of accepting what is, not suffering, and yeah, knowing your own power and worth. That's what I'm saying.
Love
That's
it,
what I'm
love it,
closing
love
it.
it. And I'm gonna add to that what you said is it encompasses just about everything today. Make space in your heart, which is really what you're talking about. Love yourself up no matter the circumstances, no matter where you are. Didn't get more than 4 hours of sleep. I love myself so much. Wasn't on Spotify all these years. I'm laughing at it. It's craziness. Love yourself up. Make the space to heal your heart, and you will change the world.
Woo!
Woohoo!
It means so much to me that you're listening to the show and would love your support in any way by giving me comments below or to subscribe to the show or share the show with friends. Thank you again for your support. Love and blessings.